My sister called me in tears, saying, "He proposed to me with the same ring he bought for you." "And he admitted it," I answered slowly. "That ring was stolen from my safe 6 months ago." Minutes passed, on the other end of the line. What happened next was shocking. He proposed to me. And, it was your ring." I paused, still holding the dish sponge in my hand, staring blankly out the window over my sink. "My what?" She was crying now. "The ring, the one he gave you. He admitted it. He said it was yours first." A slow burn started in my chest. That ring was stolen from my safe, 6 months ago. Dead silence on the other end. That was how this all started. And I still don't know what's worse, the betrayal, or how numb I've become to it all. I'm 42, a nurse in Raleigh, North Carolina, and a mom to a 10-year-old boy named Leo. I'm used to emotional messes, but nothing prepares you for betrayal from the two people you thought would never hurt you like this. My sister Rochelle is 39. We've had a rocky relationship over the years, never close, but always connected. She's bolder, louder, more impulsive than I've ever been. Growing up, I was the one cleaning up messes while she created them. But I loved her. I always showed up for her. Darren came into my life 3 years ago. He was this well-dressed, confident real estate agent with a slick smile and an easy way of speaking that made everyone around him feel small in a charming kind of way. He pursued me hard, flowers at work, lunch drop-offs, constant texts. At first, it felt flattering. I'd been divorced for 5 years by then, and I was careful. But he wore me down with consistency and the idea that I didn't have to be alone anymore. He proposed just over a year ago. Classic rooftop restaurant, champagne, string lights, and that ring. It was simple but elegant, a vintage gold setting with a round diamond in the middle. I remember thinking it wasn't flashy, but it felt like love. We were engaged for 4 months before things began unraveling. At first, it was subtle. I'd put on a dress and he'd say, "You know, that color makes your arms look bigger." Then it became how I parent. Then it was my job. "You'd make more money in private practice," he'd say, "or you're always so tired." It's not attractive. Still, I tried to make it work. I ignored the red flags. I told myself I was being overly sensitive, too picky. That's what everyone says about women over 40, right? You're too hard to please. You won't compromise. You're too set in your ways. One day, I opened the small safe I keep in the back of my closet, the one where I stored a few documents, some cash, a necklace that belonged to our grandmother, and the ring. It was gone. At the time, I was more confused than anything. The safe showed no signs of being tampered with. Nothing else seemed to be missing. I confronted Darren, and he acted shocked, concerned, but not surprised. I remember feeling unsettled by how not surprised he was. He blamed Leo. Said maybe he'd gotten curious and tried to play with it. I knew that wasn't true, but I didn't have the energy to fight. I let it go. Or told myself I did. 2 weeks later, I broke off the engagement. It wasn't even a dramatic breakup. We just fizzled out. I told him it wasn't working, and he didn't argue. He packed his things and left. That was 6 months ago. And now here was Rochelle, my sister, calling to say he proposed to her. With my ring. She said she didn't know about us. That I never mentioned we were engaged. That he told her we dated briefly, but it wasn't serious. I nearly laughed. Rochelle and I may not talk daily, but I told her about the engagement. I showed her the ring. She'd sent me fire emojis and finally when I'd texted her a photo of it. She knew. Whether she forgot or didn't care, I couldn't tell yet. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at nothing for a long time. There's a kind of betrayal that makes your ears ring. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. Just, hello. I didn't respond to her texts that night. Or the next. She kept calling. I ignored every one. Then came the message from Darren. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just, you're being dramatic. The ring wasn't doing anything in your drawer. I gave it to someone who appreciated it. Let it go. Let it go. Those 3 words did something to me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I started gathering every scrap of memory, conversation, and incident involving Darren. I wrote them down. Then I called Leslie, an old friend of mine who works in private security. Back when I was still with Darren, he helped me install the safe. I told him the code, once. Offhand. Never thought anything of it. Leslie and I combed through months of data from my home camera system. No luck, Darren always avoided the main entry camera. But it was my neighbor across the street who helped me out without even knowing it. Her Ring camera had a time-stamped clip of Darren leaving my house in the middle of a workday, months back, holding a small velvet pouch. The kind you'd store jewelry in. I remembered that pouch. It's where I kept the ring. That was enough to file a report. I couldn't prove he stole the ring with his hands, but I could prove unauthorized entry and suspicious behavior. I filed a police report and handed over the footage. I also included a list of other items that had gone missing, because now that I was thinking about it, there were other things gone too. A pair of earrings I never found after Darren moved out. A gold bracelet I thought I'd lost. Even some emergency cash I kept in the safe. The detective I spoke to said it wasn't uncommon for cases like this to go nowhere. But sometimes, if you had just enough, it opened a door. Meanwhile, Rochelle had moved out of the apartment she shared with Darren. She sent me a long email, no texts, no calls. She said she confronted him after our call, and he told her I was lying. Said I was jealous and trying to ruin things for her. But then she found the same velvet pouch in his sock drawer. Still had my initials etched on the tag inside. She knew. And suddenly, it wasn't just betrayal. It was reality. She said she was sorry. That she ended it. That she felt sick. And that she didn't know who she was anymore after all of this. I still didn't answer. I wasn't ready. Then the call came from the detective. Darren had been picked up for questioning. They found some of my jewelry in his possession. They asked him about the ring. He admitted it wasn't his to give. He tried to play it down. It's just a ring, he said. But theft is theft. And stupidity doesn't erase a paper trail. After the call from the detective, I sat in my car outside Leo's school for nearly 45 minutes before I could even walk in and get him. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from that kind of steady, buzzing disbelief that sinks into your muscles and makes you feel like you're vibrating inside your skin. He admitted it. Darren actually admitted it. And still, he was minimizing it. It's just a ring. That's what he said. But it wasn't just a ring. It was my ring. A symbol of what I thought was a step forward in my life. A promise. A reminder that maybe I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life alone. I knew now that promise was empty, but that didn't make it sting any less. He'd reduced all of that into a transaction, something he could repurpose and hand off to the next woman, my sister, of all people, as if nothing meant anything. I never heard directly from Darren again after that. Not a call, not a message, not a sign of remorse. Cowardice, plain and simple. I don't even think he believed he'd done anything wrong. In his head, I think he really believed the ring didn't matter once I gave him back the relationship. The truth is, men like Darren don't see people, they see utility. If you no longer serve a function, you're no longer relevant. He'd used me for stability, a home, some borrowed warmth, and then when it dried up, he moved on. And Rochelle, well, Rochelle was left standing in the fallout with cuts on her hands from trying to catch what was never meant for her. About a week after the police call, I saw her again. She showed up at my front door unannounced. She looked like hell, eyes swollen, hair tied back in a loose knot, and wearing a sweatshirt I recognized from her college days. I didn't say anything. just opened the door wider. She stepped inside like she was walking into a house that didn't feel like home anymore. "I brought your necklace," she said quietly, digging through her purse and pulling out the delicate chain I'd thought I'd lost over a year ago. It was in his nightstand. I didn't know. I nodded but said nothing. It felt like there wasn't much to say. But then she did something unexpected. She sat down at the edge of my couch and started crying. Not a few tears, but full, heaving sobs that made her body rock. "I didn't know," she repeated over and over. "I didn't know he gave me your ring. I swear to God, Elle. I didn't know." I believed her. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did. Because the Rochelle I knew was selfish at times, impulsive, yes. But cruel? No. And when she found out the truth, she didn't double down, she got out. That said something. Still, forgiveness doesn't undo damage. We sat in silence for a while. Leo was at a friend's house. The quiet felt heavier than any argument we could have had. "I feel disgusting," she finally said. "I feel like I betrayed you without even realizing it." "You didn't betray me," I said, finally breaking the silence. "You were lied to. But I should have known. I should have asked more questions. I should have remembered the ring, I saw it before. You showed it to me. Why didn't I recognize it?" "Because you wanted to believe him," I said simply. "Just like I did." She nodded, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "I feel like such a fool." "You're not the only one." We didn't hug. It wasn't that kind of reunion. It was more like two people standing on opposite sides of a bridge that had burned, trying to figure out if the water below was shallow enough to wade through. That night, she asked to stay over. I let her. She slept on the couch, curled up under the throw blanket Leo liked to use when he watched cartoons. I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying everything in my head, every moment I'd second-guessed myself, every time Darren made me feel like I was being unreasonable, difficult, too sensitive. And then I remembered Rochelle's voice when she called me, cracked and panicked, and how she went completely silent when I told her the ring had been stolen. None of this was clean. None of it ever would be. The next morning, she made coffee and quietly left before Leo woke up. I found a note tucked under my keys. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope you'll let me earn back your trust in time. I'm so sorry, Elle. I really am." I kept the note. I didn't text her back. Not yet. But I didn't throw it away either. A few days later, I had a meeting with the detective assigned to the case. They went over everything with me: timeline, physical evidence, Darren's statement. There was a lot of red tape, a lot of "we'll see what sticks," and a lot of misdemeanor theft versus felony based on valuation talk. Still, they felt confident enough to move forward with charges. Darren had a record. Not for anything serious, but enough small infractions that this would stick. His license to practice real estate was under review, and they told me it would likely be suspended pending the outcome of the case. That was the only part one actually smiled about. I didn't care about him going to jail, truthfully. I cared that he couldn't keep doing this. That he couldn't take something personal, rewrap it, and shove it into someone else's life and pretend it was love. I wanted Rochelle to know that she wasn't crazy for falling for him. And I wanted to stop blaming myself for doing the same. Life kept moving after that. Work got busier. Leo had a school play I had to help him rehearse for. I found myself laughing again, occasionally, at something stupid. My appetite came back. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes waiting for another explosive text. But healing is weird. It doesn't arrive in a clean line. One day I'd feel fine, like the whole mess had floated off into some other reality. And the next, I'd find the pouch that held the ring, tucked in the back of a drawer, and it would all crash over me again. Sometimes the memory didn't hurt. Sometimes it did. But I kept waking up. I kept going. I kept showing up for myself and for my son. And slowly, the fog began to lift. Rochelle started sending short messages once a week, always respectful, never pressuring. Little things. A photo of a dish we used to eat as kids. A link to a funny video Leo would like. She was trying. And maybe that's what surprised me the most. She wasn't just sorry. She was changing. Trying to, anyway. It was about 3 weeks after that long, quiet visit when I got a call from my mom. Now, I hadn't told her everything. Not yet. My mother's the type to hold a grudge so fiercely it scorches the person next to her. She still doesn't speak to our cousin Lana because of something that happened at a baby shower in 2014. I knew if I told her about Rochelle and Darren, she'd go nuclear. But mothers always sense something's off, even when you pretend otherwise. She'd called me about Leo's upcoming birthday. Nothing heavy. Just cake flavors, party ideas. But then her voice dropped toward the end of the call. You and your sister haven't spoken in a while, she said carefully. Everything okay? I hesitated too long. She picked up on it immediately. What happened? I sighed and sat down at the edge of my bed. She was dating Darren, I said. He proposed to her. Silence. I could almost hear her brain processing, gears turning. Your Darren? Yeah. My Darren. Another pause. Then, her voice got tight. Did she know? That he was the one who gave you the ring? She didn't at first. Then she did. Oh my God, she breathed. Jesus, Elle. I expected her to jump in with her signature fury, to start yelling about betrayal and loyalty and blood being thicker than water. But instead, she sounded tired. And that shook me more than any explosion could have. She told me she ended it, I said. That she didn't know until after he proposed. That he lied to her, told her it wasn't serious between us. My mother scoffed. And she believed that? I don't know what she believed, Mom. But she's trying. She gave me my necklace back. She wrote me a note. She's giving me space. There was a pause. Then, do you believe her? I didn't answer right away. I want to. And that was the truth. I wasn't ready to write Rochelle off completely. Not yet. There was something deeply tragic about the whole thing, how we'd both been conned in different ways. I couldn't help but see her less as my betrayer and more as another one of Darren's casualties. That didn't make it better. But it made it real. That weekend, I saw her again. It wasn't planned. I was picking up a few things from Target, school snacks, a new bath mat, just odds and ends. She was in the home aisle, staring at a set of throw pillows like they held the answers to her life. She turned and saw me. We both froze. She gave me a small wave. I nodded. For a few seconds, we just stood there, surrounded by brightly lit displays and the faint hum of fluorescent lights and top 40 hits playing overhead. Then, slowly, she walked over. You look good, she said. Her voice was soft, cautious. Thanks, I replied. You too. There was a long pause. I didn't think I'd run into you. Yeah. Well. Target. A small laugh escaped her, one that seemed to surprise both of us. She took a breath. I'd been meaning to ask if I could talk to Leo. My stomach twisted. I wouldn't say anything about Darren, she added quickly. Or the ring. Or anything. I just miss him. And I miss you. I didn't answer immediately. I just looked at her. She looked worn down in a way I didn't expect. Not sad exactly, but stripped down. Like someone who finally realized they'd been building their life on sand. He asked about you, I admitted. Last week. Her eyes widened slightly. He did? Yeah. He said, why hasn't Aunt Rochelle come over lately? She used to bring me donuts. She smiled faintly. I let out a breath. Maybe. Not yet. But maybe. She nodded. I'll wait. However long it takes. I don't blame you. That conversation stuck with me longer than I thought it would. It played over in my head while I folded laundry, while I drove to work, even while I sat watching Leo try to spell pterodactyl for a school project. I kept thinking, what does it take to really forgive someone? Is it time? Is it effort? Is it just deciding? One night, I pulled out a dusty box from the back of my closet. It was full of old cards, pictures, even some little keepsakes from vacations I'd taken over the years. I found a photo of Rochelle and me from a trip to the Outer Banks when we were teenagers. We were sunburned, grinning, arms looped around each other. Back before any men came between us. Back before adulthood carved us into separate people with complicated edges. I missed that version of us. God, I missed her. A week later, I texted her. Leo has a game this Saturday. If you want to come, he'd probably like that. Bring donuts. It was the only message I'd sent her in over a month. She replied in less than 10 seconds. I'll be there. Thank you. And she was. She showed up to the game with a paper bag of glazed and chocolate-covered and one jelly-filled, which she knew was Leo's favorite. He lit up when he saw her, sprinted to the fence, and launched into a ramble about his team and how he was playing second base now and how he got dirt on his socks, but that meant he was trying hard. She smiled the whole time. Really smiled. No guilt, no shadow. After the game, she stayed back. Gave me space. Let me approach her instead of forcing anything. And when I did, it wasn't some big emotional moment. It was just me standing beside her, handing her a bottle of water, and saying, "Thanks for coming." She nodded. Anytime. We didn't talk about Darren. We didn't talk about the ring. We didn't talk about how broken everything still was between us. We just stood in the sun and watched my son run around the field with grass-stained knees and jelly on his chin. And for the first time in months, it didn't hurt to be near her. Not as much, anyway. After that Saturday at Leo's game, Rochelle and I began rebuilding. Not through long heart-to-hearts or dramatic apologies, but in quiet, consistent ways, shared coffee after his games, casual texts about work, the occasional photo exchange when she saw something funny at the grocery store. The kind of slow, steady stitching that only time and mutual humility can accomplish. We didn't pretend the betrayal didn't happen. We just didn't live in it. But while our relationship began to mend, Darren's world started unraveling, and the best part was, I had very little to do with it after filing that initial report. All I had to do was wait. It turns out, people like Darren, charming, manipulative, overly confident, rarely have just one lie they're sitting on. You push on one thread, and the rest of the sweater starts to fall apart. Word about the investigation spread fast in his industry. Raleigh's real estate scene is tight-knit. When someone's license is up for suspension and there's talk of theft, even if it's just a misunderstanding, as Darren kept claiming, that stain doesn't wash out easy. People got uncomfortable. Referrals dried up. His broker quietly cut ties pending legal clarity. The Instagram page he loved to post on, the one with photos of luxury kitchens and drone shots of open houses, suddenly went dark. A few weeks later, I got a message from a woman named Maureen. She introduced herself as Darren's former client and ex-girlfriend. She'd found my name through the legal filings, public record, and reached out through a throwaway email. At first, I was hesitant to respond, but curiosity got the better of me. Turns out, Darren had a habit. The ring wasn't just recycled. It was his entire pattern. He had dated Maureen before me. Promised her the world. Even moved in with her for a time. Then, little things began to disappear, a gold bracelet, some cash, a watch her father had left her. She chalked it up to forgetfulness. Until she found a listing online, an eBay seller moving estate jewelry that looked exactly like hers. Guess who the seller was? That little side hustle had apparently funded his grand romantic gestures. She never had enough proof to go after him, and by the time she pieced it together, he was already long gone and dating me. We kept talking, Maureen and I. We compared notes. Dates. Habits. How he'd gaslit us, subtly isolated us, twisted reality so slowly that by the time we realized what was happening, we were already doubting ourselves. Then a third woman reached out. Then a fourth. All with variations of the same story: charming man, whirlwind romance, promises of a future, and things slowly vanishing, both physical and emotional. It became clear that Darren wasn't just a jerk. He was a pattern. So I did something I'd never done before. I wrote a public post. Not here, not on Reddit, on a private Facebook group for local women in the Triangle area. I kept it factual. No rage, no embellishments. Just dates, evidence, how I filed the report, and what we'd uncovered since. I made sure everything was legally safe and stuck strictly to what could be supported by record or evidence. Then the other women added their comments. Their receipts. Their screenshots. The thread blew up. It wasn't viral, not internet-wide, but in our community? It spread like wildfire. Turns out, Darren had enemies. He'd crossed landlords, mortgage partners, even a wedding planner he ghosted mid-contract when he was supposed to propose to someone else before me. He had left a trail. All it took was someone lighting the match. By the time the case went to court, he was cornered. His lawyer tried to downplay it, claim misunderstandings, technicalities, but too many women were coming forward. Too many of us had timelines that overlapped, matching items, overlapping stories. The court found him guilty of misdemeanor theft and unauthorized entry. He was fined, slapped with a year of probation, and ordered to pay restitution, something he clearly hated more than anything else. His license was suspended indefinitely. No more open houses. No more slick suits and champagne closings. He tried to reinvent himself after that. Briefly. I heard he started a consulting service online. It didn't last. His reputation followed him. A Google search brought up everything. The women, the theft, the accusations. No one wanted to buy a dream home from a man who stole engagement rings. The last I heard, he moved out of the Triangle area. Some whispered about Florida. Of course. I never heard from him again. But Rochelle did. She showed me the message he sent months later, when the dust was settling. I can't believe you took her side. You ruined my life. She didn't reply. She just blocked him. That's when I realized she'd learned the lesson too. Not just about Darren, but about boundaries. About self-respect. About me. Our relationship wasn't the same as it used to be, but maybe that was a good thing. It wasn't built on childhood patterns or assumptions. It was built on truth now. Hard-earned, uncomfortable truth. We were honest. We were careful. But we were in each other's lives again. Rochelle started therapy. She also started volunteering with a local women's shelter, quietly, without telling anyone at first. When she did tell me, she said it was something she needed to do. If I can help someone else spot someone like him early, she said, maybe it'll make all of this mean something. And as for me? I've never looked at another ring the same way. But I've started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. Leo's older now. He still talks about that game where his Aunt Rochelle brought donuts and sat on the bleachers cheering him on like it was the World Series. And me? I'm better. Not because of revenge. Not because Darren got what he deserved. But because I did what I needed to protect myself, speak the truth, and take back the narrative he tried to control. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't what happens to them. It's what doesn't happen to you anymore.